Have you ever been to an island in Croatia that has everything? Having lived on Hvar for 13 years, I definitely found my answer, but there was one other island I visited and it really had pretty much everything there is to offer and many advantages. And it's called the Island of Krk, which is, some say, is the biggest island in Croatia. It has a population of, I think, 17,000, but it has many advantages, such as it's connected to the mainland by bridge, so you can actually go there without paying any tolls or waiting for any ferries. It has an international airport. Rijeka Airport is based on there. It's about 2 hours from Zagreb, so a lot of people from Zagreb come to Krk and have a weekend family home there, and it's a great place to come for the weekend. It's an island that's known as the Golden Island. It has insane flora. There are more than 1,400 different types of flora on the island, which is about half of the total of the whole of Croatia, including several tree types that only appear on Krk. It's an island of wine with its own indigenous grape variety, Zlahtina. It has its own type of pasta, šurlica, which is homemade. It's an island of honey, of prosciutto, of lamb. And it's a place that really, you come there and you can really relax and you can find a lot of coastal destinations, but also inland. It's known as the cradle of literacy in Croatia because this is where they found the first evidence of Glagolithic in Baska. And if you go around, there are 34 fantastic stone Glagolithic statues depicting every single letter of the Glagolithic alphabet, and it's a little trail you can do and you can learn a lot about it. It's fantastic. It's a great adventure island. You can go sailing, kayaking, cycling, hiking, ziplining. Festivals. This is a foodie island. You have asparagus, squid, cheese, wine, olives, and the wonderful Bljak festival in Omisalj. Bljak translates as yuck into English, and this is basically a festival where they eat all the different types of offal and so on. So if it's not kind of your thing, there's still other stuff to eat, but it's a fantastic celebration. And so here are a few things that I think are really fantastic, apart from that introduction about the island of Krk, just going around a few of the regions there. Once you cross the bridge, the first settlement you come to on the coast is Omisalj, which is a beautifully stunning old town based on a cliff 85 meters from the sea. Idyllic just to walk around, take in the atmosphere of the old town. There are beaches. This is a fantastic introduction. If you want a bit more heritage near Omisalj, go to Sepen Bay, and there you have the archaeological park Millennia, which is a Roman settlement going back to the 1st century, most of which now is unfortunately in the sea, but the absolute wonderful thing to see there is the basilica, which dates back to the 5th century, and it's some really quite impressive ruins. And you can combine that with a hike or a swim, and it's a really interesting day trip. A little bit further down you have Malinska, which is another very pretty coastal destination. One of the best things to see there is the Dubok Maritime Interpretation Centre, which is a fantastic interpretation of the maritime history. This is an area which used to be used to ship all the oak off to Venice and to Rijeka and places like that. Dub is the Croatian word for oak, and so this interpretation centre follows the whole story from the small acorn to the exports onto the ships, and it's a really interesting part of Krk history. If you're into walking, you have to take the Rajska Cesta, Paradise Road. This was initially built in 1934 along the coast from Haludovo, and it's about 2 kilometers long now, and it is just this wonderful immersion into the sea, the pine trees, and this wonderful flora that Krk has. And you can see all these medicinal herbs, and it's aromatic. It's a really fantastic way to spend some time. If you want to see the largest ever wooden crucifix in Europe, this is the place to come, a place called Fumak. And there was a returnee from Australia, and he was so grateful that he had his work-related injuries fixed that he decided to dedicate a wooden crucifix to say thank you. And the crucifix is 6.6 meters high, 3.5 meters wide, and it has a bronze Jesus on top of it, and it weighs in total 840 kilos. This is officially the largest and the heaviest wooden cross in Europe. The main settlement on Krk is obviously the town of the same name, Krk. It's got one of probably the most interesting old towns that I've seen in Croatia. It's beautifully preserved, and especially of note are its city walls, which have been built from between Illyrian and Venetian times, and they're extremely well preserved. Just walking around the town, there are so many nooks and crannies and places to stop. History, Venetian time, Roman time. The fortress was built between the 12th and 14th century, and it's just a town that just oozes history, something that you can just take your time over and just imagine how life used to be there. Krk is a very famous sailing destination, and if you go to the town of Krk, you have the very, very good Krk Maritime Heritage Centre, which opened in 2018, which is another fantastically interactive museum which documents the history and the heritage of and the very proud sailing tradition of this island. Punat. When I think of Punat, I think of beaches. And also, it's the oldest marina in the whole of Croatia. And so this gives you an idea of the importance of sailing and the maritime history of this island. But the beaches around Punat are fantastic, a lot of family beaches, plenty to choose from. One of the most interesting things for the kids is the underwater pirate park. This is a very innovative park under the water, and you get your sort of oxygen mask, and it's quite a heavy thing on your head. And you walk along the seabed, you get in touch with the flora, the fauna, and also the pirate treasure. So it's a really nice family day out. Don't visit Krk without going to the Island of Kosljun, which is a very, very small island just off Punat. And it's one of my favourite little places in Croatia because it's just so different to everything else around. It's a small island of 300 meters by 300, I think. And on it you have a Franciscan monastery, and it's just a place to really chill, relax, and again, just breathe in the history of hundreds and hundreds of years before going back to the main island. Baska is, for me, one of the most interesting places on Krk for many reasons, but for historians and those looking to preserve Croatian culture, it's definitely one of the most important places because in the complex of the Church of St. Lucia in the village of Jurandvor, just outside Baska, there is what they call the Baska tablet, and this is a piece of stone which has got the oldest version of Croatian dating back to 1100, and it's got 13 words in it, including the word Croatian. This is one of the most important parts of Croatian literary heritage. If you've always wanted to visit the moon, but you're on a budget and can't afford a spaceship, then come to Krk because you can bike to the moon. One of the most interesting and unusual parts of the natural beauty of Krk is what they call the Plateau of the Moon. And this is about 350 meters above sea level. And you can cycle there from Baska, there's a trail, or you can hike. And if you're feeling especially energetic, you can continue to the path to the moon there's a promenade near Hlam, and that goes up to 461 meters above sea level. And there are really, really even more spectacular views. And it's just a very, very different aspect of this beautiful island. Baska also has incredible beaches. There are some right there in the town itself and all around, and it's a place that you can really, really chill out. It's very nice. But also it has the largest uninhabited island in Croatia, Vrbnik, which is a really quite interesting ornithological reserve and nature reserve. And the sage honey that's produced on there is renowned for its medicinal purposes. And tourists can go there, and there are some fantastic beaches also on the island, and it's another way to explore this area away from the crowds. Most of the villages on Krk are on the coast, but there is a very, very pretty one inland called Vrbnik, and that's worth a visit just to see the contrast of how life is inland on a village. But it also has some quite spectacular and unusual things to check out as well, including the nearby beach at Millennia, which is a natural mud bath. So you can go there and immerse yourself in this therapeutic mud and just really, really enjoy yourself and chill out. It also has the only cave in Krk which you can visit, which is called Biserka. Bisera means pearl in Croatian, and it apparently got its name because this is where the pirates used to hide all their treasure. So go visit, and if you find some, give me 10%. The first time I went to the town of Vrbnik was about 10 years ago, and it was during harvest time. Just the smell of the grapes was just everywhere. It was just magical, and it was nighttime. And Vrbnik is this beautiful village just on on rock, and you go through these tiny little streets. They have the narrowest street in all of in the world in Vrbnik, and I managed to get through it just about. But it just had this beautiful sunset, nighttime feeling, this smell of wine, and then I tried the local Zlahtina. It was amazing. And this is the town of wine, and this is where Zlahtina is the king of the wines. There's a very good winemaker there called Ivan Katunar, and he has this house of Katunar, and you can visit him, taste his wines, walk through the vineyards, have a complete experience of how the whole process starts from beginning to end, and it's a really, really local experience. It's fantastic. And you can also stay in the first wine hotel in Croatia called Hotel Gospoja, and this is a wine-themed hotel with different rooms and so on. And that's it. That's Krk. It's one of those islands that's very, very accessible, and it really has something for everybody. If you want to get away, there's beaches, remote beaches. If you want to drink, there's fantastic wines. The food scene is insane. The culture, the whole Glagolithic culture, the adventure tourism, the nature, and it's only 2 hours from Zagreb, and you just are flying away directly into the island. So visit Krk. I recommend it.